might have to drive. Oh my gosh.
Beautiful.
Right.
It's reversed. Steering is reversed. I love it. Hi, I'm Rob. I'm going to scratch build an EDF RC airboat in my garage out of balsa and basswood. Let's do it. I'm in my garage work area, which is a cozy mess. We're just going to start with a pencil, different rulers, and paper. I like to sketch and draw small scale first. We're going to turn this into a full-size drawing that we can use as plans. So you're going to watch me draw it all out and get to the point where I get bored and just want to move on to frames and stringers and skin. I like to use these big rolls of paper because you can make them as long as you want. I've never been able to find graph paper that really fits my needs. First thing I do is make a nice level square area with which to draw, and I mark out all the inches so I know what I'm doing. The candy observer will notice that I have not drawn this as a straight line at all. This could be a problem later. We'll find out. Stay tuned. And maybe you can see me in real time. Try and figure out if I drew that line straight. It helps me to get all the main proportions right very early on. This way, as I'm trying to figure out how to build all the different interlocking pieces, I have like the core proportions right. And this is something that I started doing more too. I found that I have a total inability to draw curves consistently, so I've started just using a batten. It helps me to get it exactly the same on both sides and actually make sure that what I'm planning to do is not going to snap the balsa immediately. I think it should be 4 inches. It's always nice to sit and disassociate for a while after you've done a good bit of work. There's that. It occurs to me I haven't shared any details of what I'm doing. I'm going to build about a 30-inch EDF catamaran airboat. I wanted to do something that was a bit the same, a little bit different. I have got two 50mm EDFs that I'm going to hook up to some 3S power. And I'm just here to have fun with it, see what different skills I can learn. I think I have some cool features that I'm going to add, but really I'm just winging it, and I think that's how we should do this. It's time in the garage and we should be having fun. Speaking of fun, here I am with a lot more of the drawing completed, staring disconsolately at things that I've drawn incorrectly. So you see that I have my frame and stringer pattern on the top view, and I'm working on a side view to figure out some of these angles of how I'm going to get the sponson and inner hulls to be a little the same, a little bit different. Here I am probably pointing to an inch marker that I have not lined something up correctly with. Inside goes right up to the bottom. Outside falls also goes right up to the bottom. There comes a time when you have to admit utter confusion and just draw it out. So that's what we're going to do. To the top. So here I'm admitting defeat and drawing it out. We're starting with a half-inch square, 1-inch long strip I'm using as my bow on either side. So I have 5 1/4-inch stringers, and what I needed to do was figure out how they all mapped into place. So there are 2 on the top that run full length, 2 on the bottom that run full length, and 1 in the middle that defines the tunnel hull. And I was getting confused on the interior top and the interior middle of how they were going to come into this sort of tunnel hull bow that I'm drawing now. And the answer here ended up being that I just needed to notch that tunnel hull bow so that the interior stringer had something to butt up against for like a nice tight glue up. So success. True to form, once I figured it out, I quit my drawing and didn't finish the rest of it. It's really helpful to work it out, but who has the time for all that? With these issues solved, we can see my side view and we can see where I'm planning to mount my jets and my rudder, or we could have if I hadn't covered it up. Now I'm working on the front view. This is also really going to help me figure out that stringer placement. It was great to go through the previous exercise of mapping out how they all roll together. I always end up drawing these things multiple times, and I think what I learned is that my first drawing on the notebook you see was naive, and in small scale I just wasn't doing it all right. And when you have to actually go and draw as a plan to build, you figure out those pieces that need revision. Part of what I'm doing at this stage too, and what's easier for me for some reason on the front view, is to try and understand the angles I'm going to be asking of any sheeting basswood I use, and figure out my overlapping pattern. So all of my stringers and supports should be placed in a way that they're where the 4-inch balsa or basswood sheets that I'm going to be using as skin can overlap into a glue up. I am going to be fiberglassing this with some real lightweight fiberglass cloth later, but I want to make sure that it's set up to be watertight from the start. I think we're going to find that the way I build these things, the stringers are really there just to get me to the stage of skinning, where then that fully formed skin on a frame is the strength of the boat. It's real brittle until it all gets put together. We're starting to see shape up something else that I'm trying to do a little bit different here. So I have 2 EDFs on pylons, and I'm going to have a wing that goes between them. On the back of that wing, somewhere we can't see, I'm going to have like a trim tab. So I've done no research or planning past dreaming, so I don't really understand with the way I'm designing this how it's going to run in the water. I think it's going to be a little bit nose up, but we're going to find out. So part of my way around that is to put an elevator in that middle section. I'm going to use it on a dial on my radio to see if I can get my running attitude more level at speed. I do not have the gall to do this in pen first, so here you see me doing everything in pencil and then redoing it in pen, but I'm pretty sure it's close to right. After a brief check-in with the dog, I'm done with my main 3 views and I'm going to move on to my frame pattern. As a happy little accident, when I flipped the paper over, I was pretty much exactly onto my top view. So it was super easy to draw out these frames in the exact placement that they would be. We can even see my pen made a crease on all the stringers. So worked out great. I'll do this again in the future and maybe I'll even mean to do it then. In the last boat I built, I used the frames as the way to specifically define the curve, but I think that had problems, so I'm going with a totally different approach here. I only have a transom, 2 frames, and then a bow. I think it's going to be plenty strong with just those, and I think it's going to let the curve flow a little bit more freely. Okay. And then you're coming out to here. I mean, as far as you're coming out. I'm putting a solid amount of time here in figuring out exactly where I need to cut notches. So I have 1/8 inch ply that I'm making these frames out of, and I'm going to use a dovetail saw to notch out the place for my stringer. And the back, making sure it's all nicely aligned is going to help get me a straight boat. Straight down. No, that's not true. You go from there down 1 inch. We've come across me figuring out that I have not drawn this to spec, but that's fine. We're going to call this an audible, and I had intended the shaping to be a little bit different, but here we go. And then you're going down 1 inch. Over 2 inches. Over to there. Good escape. First of all, let me say I must apologize. And with that, I'm bored of drawing. It's time to just get to it and start building. It's super helpful for me to draw out plans and get a real crisp mental image of what I'm doing. But as we get further and further and further, I'll be straying from plans as I either find out that I drew it wrong or as I get different ideas as we go. So next, we're going to be creating frames out of this 1/8 inch ply. We'll have 1/4 inch sticks as stringers, leading into a 1/2 inch stick as the bow. And then a lot of our sheeting is going to be this 1/16 basswood. So pretty quickly we're going to get into the really satisfying parts where the drawing gets 3D. So come join me for that. Enjoy.